Have you ever been surrounded by people yet felt completely unseen? Have you ever smiled in a room full of laughter while something inside you quietly broke? Sometimes it is not the noise around you that hurts the most, but the silence within. A silence that aches, a silence that waits for someone to notice, a silence that begs for peace. But let me tell you, that same silence, the one that feels empty, can become the very place where your soul begins to heal. There comes a moment in life when you stop speaking, not because you have nothing to say, but because you finally realize not every voice deserves your answer. Not every attack deserves your response. Not every misunderstanding deserves your explanation. And in that silence, something beautiful begins. A seed is planted, a space is cleared, a connection is made between your heart and the one who created it. We live in a world that constantly pulls us into reaction, where people expect you to justify every step, to explain every pause, to prove that you are still valid even when you are not loud. But your strength is not in the noise. Your strength is in your stillness. Your strength is in your ability to remain calm when others try to provoke you. Your strength is in your trust in Allah Almighty when things do not go your way. But as Allah Almighty says in the Quran, and put your trust in the ever-living who does not die, and glorify His praises. That is where stillness begins. Not in avoidance, but in submission. Not in weakness, but in certainty. When you truly believe that Allah Almighty sees what no one else sees, hears what no one else hears, and understands what no one else can ever understand. You stop explaining yourself to people. You stop chasing their validation. You stop trying to prove your worth to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Stillness is not silence without purpose. It is silence with presence, silence with clarity, silence with spiritual weight. It is a sign that your soul is tired of noise, tired of chaos, and ready for connection. And in that stillness, you begin to hear what you were too busy to notice before. You begin to see the blessings you once overlooked. You begin to feel the mercy that was always there but drowned in distraction. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, part of someone's being a good Muslim is leaving that which does not concern them. Let that settle in your heart. How much of our suffering comes from things that were never meant for us to carry? Arguments that led nowhere, relationships that drained us, spaces where we had to shrink just to be accepted. And when we walk away, we are not being rude. We are not being cold. We are finally choosing peace. We are finally honoring the soul Allah Almighty has entrusted us with. Stillness gives you room to breathe. It gives your heart time to rest. It allows your mind to declutter and your spirit to reset. It reminds you that your worth is not in how loudly you defend yourself, but in how deeply you trust that Allah Almighty will defend you. And He does. Every day, in ways you do not even see. You do not always need to speak. Sometimes your silence speaks louder than any words ever could. Sometimes so let them think you are distant. Let them say you have changed. They are not wrong. You have changed. You have grown. You have remembered who you are. And more importantly, you have remembered whose you are. You belong to the one who knows your heart without you saying a word. The one who understands your silence. The one who never left, even when you felt lost. Stillness is not the absence of motion, it is the presence of purpose. The world may not understand it, but your soul does. Because in stillness, you are not doing nothing. You are doing the most important thing of all. You are turning back, you are realigning, you are healing. And once you taste that kind of peace, you will never want to go back to the noise again. Have you ever poured your heart out just to be misunderstood? Tried to explain your pain only to have it dismissed? Have you ever sat in front of someone hoping they'd understand your silence, your distance, your transformation, and all they saw was attitude, not healing? If you have, then know this. You are not alone. And more importantly, you do not owe the world an explanation for the way you protect your peace. Sometimes we stretch ourselves thin trying to make people see our hearts, trying to justify why we moved on, why we distanced ourselves, why we stopped responding. But the truth is, when Allah Almighty knows your intention, you no longer need the world to approve your direction. Not everyone is meant to understand your journey. Some are only meant to be part of a chapter, not the whole story. And that's okay. There is a kind of freedom that comes when you stop explaining yourself to those who are never listening to understand. When you realize that no matter how pure your heart is, some people will still twist your silence into arrogance, your boundaries into disrespect, your distance into pride. But you do not need to explain healing to those who have never cared for your wounds. You do not need to make your growth comfortable for those who were fine with your pain. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever believes in Allah in the last day, let him speak good or remain silent." Sometimes the best form of speaking is staying silent. Because silence in the face of misunderstanding is not defeat, it is discipline. It is a sign that you no longer seek validation from people who misread your character. You have chosen to be understood by Allah Almighty instead. And as Allah Almighty says in the Quran, indeed, He is knowing of that within the hearts. What a powerful reminder that every intention that went unnoticed, every good deed that was misjudged, every sacrifice that was unseen by people, all of it was recorded, all of it was witnessed, all of it was known by the one who matters most. You do not need to keep proving your loyalty. You do not need to keep explaining why your energy has changed. You do not need to convince anyone that your silence is sacred. If someone cannot recognize the beauty of your stillness, then they were never meant to witness your healing. Because those who truly care will never make you question your worth. They will never force you to justify your peace. They will honor your growth, not guilt you for it. And perhaps Allah Almighty is protecting you through their distance. Perhaps their misunderstanding is mercy in disguise. Perhaps your silence is what is saving you from being pulled back into cycles you fought so hard to break. Sometimes walking away is not pride, it is protection. Protection of your faith, your heart, your future. And yes, it may hurt, it may feel like loss, but it is also the beginning of peace. You do not have to explain why you no longer show up the way you used to, why you no longer tolerate what you once allowed, why you no longer engage in what drains your soul. You are allowed to change, you are allowed to grow, you are allowed to evolve in silence and protect that transformation like a treasure. Because the truth is, not everyone is meant to have access to you. Your time, your energy, your presence, they are sacred. And the more you learn to value them, the more you will realize that some people only showed up because you were easily available. Not because they valued you, but because they could reach you whenever they pleased. But you are not a convenience. You are not here to constantly explain your decisions. You are not here to make others comfortable while your own soul suffers in silence. The moment you stop over-explaining is the moment you start honoring yourself. You begin to move with quiet strength. You begin to walk with purpose. You begin to protect your softness from those who only see it as weakness. Let them think what they want. Let them speak. Let them label you distant or difficult. What they don't see is the quiet work you are doing behind closed doors. The way you cry in prayer. The way you beg Allah Almighty for strength. The way you are rebuilding your soul brick by brick in silence. That journey is not for their approval. It is for your Lord. So stop explaining. Stop defending. Stop exhausting yourself for people who will never be satisfied. Just keep going. Keep building. Keep turning to the one who never misunderstands, never misjudges, and never turns you away. Because when Allah Almighty knows the sincerity of your heart, that is all the validation you will ever need. Have you ever reached a point where the smallest disturbance feels overwhelming? Where even a simple conversation drains you and you don't understand why? That is not weakness. That is your soul whispering to you. That is your heart asking for protection. That is your peace begging to be guarded. There is a reason peace feels rare. It is because most people have forgotten how to protect it. We say yes to things that damage us. We allow people into our lives who do not honor our boundaries. We keep answering calls that leave us more confused than clear. And over time, we begin to mistake chaos for normal. But peace is not a luxury. It is not something extra you seek when life slows down. Peace is survival. It is the air your heart breathes. Without it, your soul begins to suffocate. Your peace is sacred. It is not selfish to protect it. It is not harsh to distance yourself from those who constantly harm it. It is not rude to walk away from what brings you stress. It is an act of worship to guard the calm that Allah Almighty has placed within you. Because your soul was not created for noise. It was created for remembrance. As Allah Almighty says in the Quran, Surely in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Not in attention, not in applause, not in people's approval. True rest, true peace is found in the quiet moments when your heart connects with your Creator, when you no longer rely on the world to keep you whole, when you stop expecting others to give you what only Allah Almighty can provide. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, the strong one is not the one who overcomes others with strength, but the one who controls himself while in anger. That's peace. Real peace is not a life without conflict. It is a heart that stays steady in the middle of the storm. It is the strength to walk away from arguments. It is the courage to stay silent when provoked. It is the discipline to say no when something threatens your emotional well-being. And sometimes peace comes with loss. You will lose people, you will lose habits, you will lose comfort. But what you gain is far greater. You gain clarity, you gain time, you gain a deeper relationship with Allah Almighty. Because when peace becomes your priority, everything else in your life begins to align. You stop needing to explain your boundaries. You stop feeling guilty for choosing yourself. You start showing up for yourself the way you've shown up for others. You start speaking kindly to your heart. You start moving with intention. You start resting, not just physically, but spiritually. And that rest is powerful. That calmness makes your presence strong, even in silence. People may not understand this version of you. They may say you've changed. And the truth is, yes, you have. You've changed because your soul got tired. You've changed because your heart got wiser. You've changed because you finally realized that your peace is more important than proving a point, more valuable than winning arguments, more precious than pleasing everyone around you. Not everyone deserves access to your peace. Some people come into your life only to take, only to drain, only to distract. And if they walk away because you chose peace over pleasing them, let them go. If someone is offended by your boundaries, that is a reflection of their entitlement, not your character. Peace is not the absence of love. It is the presence of self-respect. And real love, real friendship will never make you compromise your peace to keep it alive. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to take a step back. You are allowed to protect your space. Not because you are angry, not because you are distant, but because your peace is your responsibility. And when you take care of it, you are also taking care of your soul. This world will always try to pull you into noise, into distraction, into chaos. But your job is to return. Return to stillness. Return to remembrance. Return to the one who sees the storms within you and calms them with his mercy. Peace is not just a state, it is a choice. A daily, intentional, quiet choice. And when you choose it consistently, it becomes who you are. You stop explaining it, you start living it, you stop fighting for it, you start protecting it. So if you are in a season where peace feels distant, start again. One breath at a time, one prayer at a time, one quiet, I trust you, Allah, at a time. Because the moment you make peace your priority, your life begins to transform. And your soul, after being shaken by the world, will finally begin to rest. How long will you carry what was never yours to hold? How long will you keep pouring into what keeps wounding you? There comes a time when your heart begins to whisper, enough. And if you ignore that whisper for too long, it becomes a cry. A silent, aching cry for release, for healing, for freedom. Sometimes the weight is not in what you carry, but in your refusal to let it go. The people, the expectations, the pain, the guilt, it clings to you not because you need it, but because you've grown used to it. You've made space for it in your soul, even when it's been harming you. But Allah Almighty did not create you to live in emotional exhaustion. He did not create your heart to remain in survival mode. He created you for peace, for growth, for healing. And healing begins the moment you let go. Let go of who they wanted you to be. Let go of who they expected you to stay. Let go of the idea that you need to carry everyone else's comfort at the cost of your own clarity. Let go of the belief that walking away means failure. Because sometimes walking away is how you survive. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop losing yourself in the process of caring for those who do not care for you. It means you understand that your worth is not measured by how much pain you can endure in silence. It is measured by how much you trust Allah Almighty to take what hurts and replace it with something better, something that fits, something that heals. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, be in this world as a stranger or a traveler. You were never meant to hold tightly to what was always meant to pass. People, seasons, experiences, they come and go. And when you try to grip what Allah Almighty is trying to remove, you prolong the pain. Sometimes the delay in healing is not because you are broken, it's because you are still holding on. And as Allah Almighty says in the Quran, but perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you. And perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not. That is where trust begins. When you release your grip on what you thought you needed and allow Allah Almighty to give you what you truly deserve. It's not easy. Letting go feels like loss. It feels like failure. It feels like the end. But what if it's the beginning? What if letting go is the door to peace? What if it's the step that leads you to the life your soul has been praying for? Healing is often hidden behind painful decisions. But you cannot heal in the same space where you were hurt. You cannot become whole while remaining tied to what broke you. Yes, some people may never apologize. Some chapters may never be explained. Some endings will come without closure. But your healing is not dependent on their awareness. Your healing is between you and Allah Almighty. He knows what they did not see. He knows what they never acknowledged. And He will reward you for every tear, every moment of quiet pain, every time you chose peace instead of revenge. You are not weak for walking away. You are wise. You are not bitter for letting go. You are brave. You are not heartless for choosing yourself. You are healing, and healing is holy. It is the process of returning to who you were before life wounded you. It is the journey of shedding what does not serve your soul. And it is often quiet, lonely, and misunderstood. But do it anyway. Release the need to be understood. Release the fear of being judged. Release the pressure to be strong for everyone else. You have carried enough. Now is the time to be carried. Some burdens are too heavy for one soul to carry. And you were never asked to carry them alone. Every time you let go of what harms you, you make space for what heals you. Every time you close a door that no longer leads to peace, you step closer to the one who is peace itself. So breathe, release, step back, let go. Not because you are giving up, but because you are finally choosing to rise. Let go so your heart can be light enough to heal. Let go so your soul can finally rest. Let go and let Allah Almighty hold what was never meant to stay in your hands. Because the moment you stop gripping what is gone, you begin to receive what was always written for you. Have you ever felt like life suddenly went quiet? The phone stops ringing, the crowd disappears, the invitations slow down. You look around and realize you are alone. At first it feels like abandonment, like something has gone wrong. But what if it's not a punishment? What if it's a gift? What if this silence is not loneliness, but divine preparation? There are seasons in your life where Allah Almighty pulls you away from everyone and everything. Not to break you, but to build you. Not to punish you, but to protect you. Because some transformations can only happen in solitude. Some healing only begins in silence. And some lessons can only be taught when there is no one left to distract you. It is in isolation that the masks fall, that the performances stop, that the truth begins to rise. When no one is clapping, when no one is watching, that is when your soul finally speaks. That is when your heart has room to cry, to reflect, to return. As Allah Almighty says in the Quran, say He is the most merciful. We have believed in Him and upon Him we have relied. So you will come to know who is in clear error. That verse reminds you, when others walk away, your Lord remains. When people stop checking in, Allah Almighty is still close. When the world grows quiet, the voice of truth grows louder. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, spent time in solitude before revelation came. He would retreat to the cave, away from noise, away from people. Because solitude is where clarity lives. It is where distractions fade and the soul rises. It is where you begin to see what truly matters and who never did. Isolation is uncomfortable because it confronts you with your truth. It reveals your wounds. It shows you the habits that no longer serve you, the people you held on to for too long, the beliefs that were never rooted in reality. But through that discomfort comes release. And through that release comes transformation. You learn who you are when no one is watching. You learn what you value when there's no one to impress. You learn what you truly believe when you have no one left to lean on but Allah Almighty. And in those moments, your faith deepens. Your prayers become sincere. Your conversations with your Lord become personal, raw, real. Some of the most powerful growth will happen in silence. Not because you're doing nothing, but because you're being reshaped, rebuilt, prepared. You are shedding old identities, breaking unhealthy patterns, becoming someone who can carry what's coming next, because what Allah Almighty has planned for you requires strength, maturity, and clarity, and those things are built in isolation. Let people wonder where you've gone. Let them question your distance. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the season your Lord has called you into. This is sacred. This is necessary. This is part of the process. You're not missing out. You're being refined. You're not falling behind. You're being elevated. And when the time is right, when the silence has done its work, you will return. But you won't return the same. You'll come back grounded, clear, focused, not seeking attention, but carrying presence. So if you are in a quiet season, embrace it. Don't rush to escape it. Sit in it, cry in it, pray in it, heal in it, let it do what it was sent to do. Because isolation is not the end. It's the doorway to becoming. It's the womb of rebirth. It's the space where the old you is gently laid to rest and the new you begins to rise. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. You are being guided in silence, prepared in stillness, held by the one who never lets go. And one day you will look back at this chapter and smile, because you'll realize this wasn't a breakdown. It was your breakthrough. Why does everything feel so heavy when your mind is scattered? Why does the heart ache when your soul is pulled in too many directions? It's not always pain. Sometimes it's misalignment. Sometimes the heaviness is not from hardship, but from losing focus on what truly matters. And when you feel that way, drained, confused, restless, it's not a sign to do more. It's a sign to return, to refocus, to realign with your purpose. Life will keep offering you distractions, endless choices, endless noise, endless opinions. But you were not created to chase everything. You were created to walk a path, a clear, intentional path toward Allah Almighty. And the moment you begin to focus, you begin to see what was blocking you all along. You can't hear truth when your mind is filled with noise. You can't feel peace when your soul is constantly reacting. Focus is not about ignoring life. It's about remembering why you're here. And when you remember your purpose, everything else begins to fall into place. As Allah Almighty says in the Quran, indeed Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. That change begins with awareness. It begins with clarity. And clarity only comes through focus, through stillness, through stepping back from what distracts and stepping into what aligns. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, there is a piece of flesh in the body. If it is sound, the whole body is sound. And if it is corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. That piece is the heart. You can be doing everything right outwardly. You can pray, you can fast, you can attend gatherings, but if your heart is elsewhere, scattered, busy, disconnected, your soul feels it. Focus teaches discipline. And discipline is not harshness. It is mercy. It is choosing what is best for your soul, even when your emotions resist. It is saying no to distractions, not because they are always bad, but because they are not part of your assignment. Because they delay your growth, because they drain your energy, because they steal the presence you need for your connection with Allah Almighty. You cannot pour into everything and expect to remain full. Some things have to be released. Some doors have to be closed. Some conversations need to be left unanswered. Because every time you say yes to what does not serve your soul, you are saying no to the quiet voice inside of you that is asking for focus. And when you begin to focus, your life shifts. You stop chasing approval. You stop over-explaining. You stop trying to do it all. You begin to move with clarity. You begin to protect your time. You begin to build habits that support your healing, not distract from it. People may say you've become distant. They may say you've changed, and they are right. You've changed because you've stopped being available for what pulls you away from your purpose. You've changed because you've remembered your calling. You've remembered your truth. You've remembered Allah Almighty. Focus brings your heart back to prayer. It brings your mind back to stillness. It brings your steps back to direction. And in that direction, you begin to see the doors that were always meant for you. Doors that were hidden when you were scattered. Doors that only open when your energy is clear and your intention is sincere. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every connection is meant to stay. When you're focused, you learn to let go of what seems good so you can receive what is truly right. This is not about being perfect. This is about being intentional, about waking up with purpose, about asking what is pulling me closer to Allah Almighty, what is distracting me from Him. That question, asked sincerely, will realign your life more than anything else. So slow down, refocus. Let the world rock. Let others chase. You stay grounded. You stay present. You stay connected. Because when your focus is clear, your direction is steady. And when your direction is steady, this is not about doing more. This is about doing what matters most. And when you live like that, with focus and intention, you walk in alignment. You walk in peace. You walk in purpose. And everything that is meant for you begins to arrive. Not because you chased it, but because you were finally ready to receive it. Why do we chase what was never meant to be chased? Why do we run after love, approval, attention, as if our worth depends on it? Have you ever looked back and realized that what you chased the hardest is what hurt you the most? That the more you ran after it, the further it seemed to drift away. And then one day in your exhaustion, you stopped. You stopped chasing, you stopped begging, and something shifted, not outside, but within. That was the beginning of becoming. There is a difference between chasing and becoming. Chasing comes from emptiness. It is the belief that something outside of you will finally make you feel whole. But becoming is different. It is quiet. It is rooted in faith. It is built in the unseen. It is not about running after what you think you need. It is about growing into the person Allah Almighty created you to be. And when you become, you no longer chase. You attract. You align. You receive. This world teaches us to perform, to compete, to constantly prove our value. But your soul knows something deeper. It knows that growth is not loud. Healing is not dramatic. Real strength is built in private. When you choose patience over reaction, when you choose prayer over panic, when you choose peace over pleasing others. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, be mindful of Allah and He will protect you. Be mindful of Him and you will find Him before you. That is the essence of becoming. You stop chasing outcomes and you start cultivating presence. You stop looking outward for signs and you start turning inward, where sincerity lives, where intention grows, where real faith begins. As Allah Almighty says in the Quran, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. You do not need to run after what is already written for you. You do not need to force what is meant by His wisdom to flow into your life in its time. When you rely on Him, when you trust Him, when you focus on your inner transformation, everything else aligns. Let them run, let them race, let them chase what you've chosen to grow beyond. You are not behind, you are being refined. You are not slow, you are steady, you are not forgotten. You are being prepared, and preparation takes time. It is lonely, it is quiet, it is misunderstood, but it is necessary. You begin to realize that success without peace is hollow, that relationships without purpose are heavy, that attention without sincerity is fleeting. And so you shift. You stop performing, you stop convincing, you stop waiting to be chosen. And you choose yourself. You choose the path of becoming. And on that path, you build something lasting, something real. You build discipline. You build values. You build a heart that beats for Allah Almighty, not for the approval of people. And when that becomes your foundation, your peace becomes unshakable because it is no longer tied to outcomes. It is tied to obedience. It is no longer rooted in how others see you. It is rooted in how your Creator sees you. When you choose becoming over chasing, your energy changes. You start valuing silence. You start honoring solitude. You begin to say no without guilt. You begin to walk away without explanation, not from arrogance, but from awareness. Not because you're too good for others, but because you've realized your soul is too precious to be placed in careless hands. And the beautiful part is, when you grow, the right people will see it. They will not feel threatened by your boundaries. They will not shame you for choosing peace. They will love you in your silence, respect you in your solitude, and support you through your evolution. Because the ones meant for you will never ask you to shrink.